Namaskaram, Vanakkam, welcome and good morning, good afternoon to all of you. We're thrilled to have you all join us today for Kalai Nirai Foundation's second educational program virtually since it was formed in March of 2023. My name is Archana Sunil. I am a volunteer and of Kalai Nirai Foundation and one of the founding members, along with Srimati Vidya Jayaraman, Dr. Shri Sham Panchapakesan, Kumari Kesani Sunil, and Chiranjeevi Raghav Sunil. Kalai Nirai Foundation USA is a 501c3 nonprofit organization started with the blessings of Jagadguru Sri Shankara Vijayendra Saraswati Shankaracharya Swamigal of Mulanai Sri Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham in March of 2023. Our mission is to support and promote the preservation of Bharatiya heritage, traditions, culture, and knowledge systems in the US, Bharatam, and around the world, primarily through youth engagement. We hope to accomplish our mission through education and awareness programs such as today's workshop, drama productions, performing and visual arts. It is also Sri Pariva's Agnya to organize heritage travel tours for youth and their families in the US to spend time in Gramams in Bharatam. So we hope to launch the first Grama Yatra in 2024 for young adults, young children, and their families. So look out for that announcement. We will soon be initiating youth volunteerism in our local communities in the US and in Bharatam through programs that will connect the youth in the US with their counterparts in rural Bharatam. We hope you will stay in touch with us and join us in this work that we've begun as we make progress. With that, I will hand you off to Chiranjeevi Raghav Sunil. Raghav?
Namaste, everyone. My name is Raghav Sunil, a youth board member.
One second, Raghav, please turn on your video. Yeah, there we go.
My name is Raghav Sunil, a youth board member of Kalai Nirai Foundation. I've been fascinated by languages in general and have been involved in deep study of Tamil. And so I'm thrilled to introduce our guest for this two-day workshop on Grantha Lipis, Dr. Sri Vinod Rajan. Sri Vinod is a computer scientist with a passion for data, writing systems, languages, and digital humanities. After obtaining his PhD in digital paleography, he had a brief academic experience in Scotland and Germany. He currently works as a senior consultant in Berlin, specializing in data engineering, cloud architecture, legacy system modernization, and front-end design and development. He's the creator of Aksharamukha, a script converter that many of us have probably used, Granthavarman, a portal that converts Devanagari Romanized text into Grantha, Satisar, a portal that converts Devanagari Romanized text into Sharada script, Jinavani, which converts the modern Tamil script into its ancient predecessors, namely Tamil Brahmi and Vattarithtu. He's created several fonts, which are widely used, such as Adinatha, a Tamil Brahmi font, Arvar Telugu, Arishtanemi Tamil, Vajranandi Tamil, and Agastya. His profile at virtualvinod.com lists several pages of his research and linguistics accomplishments and contributions to ancient Indian languages. I'm personally looking forward to learning from Sri Vinod today. Welcome to Kalai Nirai Foundation, Sri Vinod Rajan.
Thank you. Right, I should start then. You're right. Okay, let me share my screen. Right. Can you guys see my screen? Yes, no?
Yes, Vinodji, please go ahead.
Okay, right. So, to give like a brief like a full story of what happened, I usually do like Grantha workshop once a year or twice a year. And this time I also want to do a Grantha workshop, but Vidya usually organizes Grantha workshop. She was like, nah, we did it like twice this year already. Why can't you just like give an introduction to Indian scripts, because I've been working with Indian scripts over the last like a decade, more or less. So I did my PhD in scripts, computer science / paleography, and part of my chapter was to like analyze using computational techniques how Indian scripts have developed. So I have some experience in working with it, and Vidya was like, can you just give us a quick introduction of like what are Indian scripts, like some ancient Indian scripts, what are the structures, some features about it, and how the scriptures evolved, and how Indian scripts have spread outside India, a bit about Unicode, how do Indian script fonts work. Right? These are the topics. I know these are like very, very wide topics. I can talk about them forever and ever. But we'll see like a brief overview, how it works, about the topics. I have to like summarize a lot and abstract a lot because we don't have enough time. Like each of these topics, you can write books and books about them. Before I start, I tend to speak very, very fast, either in English or in my own language, Tamil or Telugu. So if I'm speaking too fast, just stop me there and saying like, Vinod, you're speaking too fast. Just slow yourself down. So I'll try to speak a bit slowly so that people can follow what I'm saying.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, I have this habit of like just blabbering. Anyway, so let's start. Yeah. So welcome to the workshop. We have around how many people? Like 12 people, I guess. Well, yeah, around 12ish. Anyway, thanks for coming. Thanks for taking a weekend to attend this topic. Much appreciated. So yeah, I know I didn't put Indian scripts. I put Indic scripts for a reason. Because when you put Indian, it becomes like restricted to like what's now the Republic of India, and that has always not been the case, right? At least even 1,000 years ago, when you said Indian culture, right, it went from what's now Afghanistan to what's now like Vietnam, right? Everything came under like the Indian cultural umbrella, right? It was just one was very far and wide. So Indic kind of like abstracts all that. So it doesn't, it's not restricted to like what's India currently now. Right. Let's start from the let's start from the origin of Indian writing. So the earliest mention of writing, at least Indian text, comes from Panini, right? And just give me a minute. Let me restart the counter so that I don't speak too much. Right. The early mention of writing comes from Panini, right? And this Ashtadhyayi. In chapter 3, he has this for different tools. He gives different examples. For the examples of the suffix kara, he mentions the word lipi, right? Or lipi, so that we can form the word lipikaraha or libikaraha, a scribe, right? And the thing is like he gives two variants for the word writing, lipi and libi, right? The general consensus, general thought is that since he has given variant and they're like similar sounding, either Sumerian or like Persian words, it is suggested that like probably it is a borrowing and reanalysis of the word from the old Persian tipi, which again is a borrowing from Akkadian, which again is a borrowing from Sumerian, right? Part of it because he was from the northwest, which was just completely under Persian influence. And Persians had a writing by then. And so what do we learn from this? We learn from at least around 400 BCE, give or take 100 years. He knew about writing, right? Because he forms the word lipikaraha. So he knew what a scribe is. He knew about writing. But what writing he was actually talking about, right? Again, we come to the fourth chapter. He again mentions the word Yavana, Again, he gives lots of example, like how to find feminine form of a given noun. So you get Yavana, you apply the rule Anuk, you get the word Yavanani, right? The feminine form of the word, base word Yavana. And when you look into the commentaries, usually, right, it's glossed as Yavana Lipi, right? Yavananam Lipihi, Yavanani, right? So when someone says the female form of the word Yavana, Yavanani, the comment is like it represents like Yavana Lipi, Greek writing, right? Again, it's from the commentators who like at least several centuries after Panini. And again, that's understandable because by the time commentaries were written, the Northwest were like under Greek influence. Alexander came to India, he invaded a lot of like Greek kings ruling what's now Pakistan. So what they glossed as Yavanani as like Greek script, right? Does it mean he knew Greek script? We don't know, right? Again, it's possible he knew about Aramaic because he was from Northwest and around 400 feet. It was under Persian influence, so he knew Aramaic possibly. But Ashtadhyayi was ever written by him, that we don't know. Most likely it wasn't. If you look into the Maheshwara Sutras, Jung and Ayavarat, all that, you know that like the whole Ashtadhyayi is arranged in a way so it can be transmitted orally, right? And by the time Panini composed Ashtadhyayi, the scripts that were popular in the Northwest in this neighborhood was Kharoshti, remnants of Aramaic, something that people still remembered it, possibly Greek, right? And all these three things are like unsuitable for writing Sanskrit. So at this time, right, around 400 or around that neighborhood, Indians had contact with Greeks, they had contact with Persians, right? They most likely knew about Greek script. They most likely knew about Aramaic script and the Aramaic language, because when Ashoka wrote his edicts in what's now India proper, he did edicts in Brahmi, in the local Prakrit dialect, and in the northwest, he issued edicts in Greek and Aramaic. So even at Ashoka's time, there are people who are well versed in Aramaic and Greek. Right. So Indians knew about writing. So why was it not readily adopted? Right. That's question we always ask about it, because when Megasthenes came to India, the story is like he came to India, he went to the court of Chandragupta, and he complained like in the Indian courts nobody brought like written records, right? He said like people didn't have written word in the Indian courts. He didn't say people didn't have Indian writing. He just noticed like they didn't like making the written records in Indian courts. So when Indians knew about writing and why they did not like readily adopt or create, and why did you have to wait until like Ashoka or even just before Ashoka? One possible reason people say I trust India as like was an oral society. It still is, right? People put lots of place lots of importance on like memorizing text, and transmitting that text orally, right? Again, before someone asks me, like you do have the Indus script, which is again like around 3000 BCE. They are not deciphered in the longest text, you could say, in Indus is like around 20 to 25 signs, less than 30 signs. So I don't know. So we don't know even if it's a language. So even if it was a language, by the time of like Ashoka, it was probably lost because we don't have any records of any writing until the time of Ashoka. Yeah, so one thing we could say is like India as a culture placed a lot of effort on like oral transmission. Right? If you take the Vedas, they were not written for a long time. Right? In fact, it was Vedas were like were forbidden to be written. Right? Of course, Vedas have lots of synonyms. One of the synonyms Vedas in Tamil is Eludha Kilavi, right? The unwritten word, right? Because you are not supposed to write on the Vedas, right? Even the Buddhists were like vocacious, like text producers. Their sutras are written until like what 100 CE or 200 CE, right? All the sutras are like memorized, transmitted orally. Even after writing was invented, it was popular until in Sri Lanka there was a famine. People were dying, and there were not enough monks to like continue the transmission. They were like, you know what? Maybe we should write it down, right? Um, so as a culture, we were always predominantly an oral culture, right? There is this nice story in like Plato's works, right? By the time Plato was there, Greeks were like conquered Egypt, were ruling over Egypt, and there are lots of stories about Egyptian culture, right? And Egyptians, as you know, have one of the earliest forms of writing. So even before Greeks are writing, Egyptians are writing. So one of the legends he recalls is like, Thoth is an Egyptian god of writing, and there's an Egyptian king. He's the first king of Egypt, and Thoth goes, you know what? I just discovered writing. Have this magnificent device. You can write, you can transmit knowledge. It won't be lost. It will go from generation to generation. He's so excited to present his discovery to the king of Egypt, right? And the king was like, "You stupid person! What have you even invented? Like you didn't invent anything magnificent. Because if you invent writing, people will just read things and will like pretend they know, right? They only will appear wise, right? They won't really learn things, right? Because for now we take writing as granted because it's a cultural memory, and we think, you know what? Why wouldn't people appreciate writing? Like with any new technology, people are always skeptical before something gets adopted, right? That's what this legend says. Like, what, when Egyptians first discovered writing, even they were very skeptical about like adopting it because they had their doubts whether it will degrade the knowledge of people, how people appear wise and all that. Um, Again, there is another very famous shloka. This Giti Shigri Shirakampi Yatha Likita Pataka Anadhajnyo Lipi Kanthascha Shatete Pataka Adhamadha. Right? All the six types of people who are like bad reciters, one who sings, one who speaks too fast, that includes me, one who shakes his head, Shirakampi, and one who reads from the text, one who doesn't understand what he's reading, and one who mumbles. Right? If all these six types of reciters are the worst of the worst. And you could see that like one of them uh, are those who read actually from the text. Right? There's another verse from another text called uh, Tiruvalluvar. Oh, probably composed around like 10th, 11th century. It's quite late, right? It goes like, ஆற்றல் அழியும் என்று அந்தணர்கள் நான்மறையை போற்றி இறைத்தேற்றின் புறத்தெழுதார் ஏற்றெழுதி வல்லுனரும் வல்லாரும் வள்ளுவன் அப்பாலை சொல்லிடும் ஆற்றல் சோர்வென்று. Right? It goes like, the Brahmins don't usually write the Vedas because they think if you write the Vedas, they will lose their efficacy, right? But on the other hand, Tiruvalvar wrote his Tirukural so that even though it's written, it will never lose its efficacy, right? Assuming that it's composed in the 10th century. Even until then, Vedas are not like written, again, which is not true now. We have lots of manuscripts of Vedas, but at some point it was a taboo to write down the Vedas. Um, just give the context of like how our culture, like, it prioritized oral transmission, right? Um, so all that happened, right? And then Ashoka comes, and then bam, you basically have like a writing. He just erects all these big pillars everywhere, from what's now Gandhara, this Afghanistan, up to like the southern tip of India, right? And you don't get evidence of just one script, but you get evidence of like two scripts, right? One is Brahmi, whereas most of the edicts are uh, written, using which it's written. And then you have Rushdie, which was like used only in the what's now again northwest, what's now Pakistan, Afghanistan. And until then, we don't have like any actual evidence of Indian writing. That is agreed by everybody, right? Um, these are two scripts that suddenly pop up of nowhere because Ashoka decided he wanted to put like giant pillars and edicts everywhere in the country. Um, they're usually called Brahmi and Kharoshti, at least now. But the truth is, like, we don't know what their actual names are. We don't know if they were actually called Brahmi or Kharoshti, right? The names were assigned in the late 1800s or early 1900s. Basically, what Indian literature talked about, like scripts and writing, there were like lots of records from at least Buddhists and Jains, where they say, like, you know what, there's writing, it's called Brahmi. It's the earliest writing, it's written from left to right. And there's another script called Kharoshti, and it's written from right to left, right? People found like the earliest Indian writing, one goes from left to right, another goes from right to left. They're like, you know what, maybe that one is most likely Brahmi, and the second one is like most likely Kharoshti. Yeah, so these are the edicts. As I said, Ashoka did edicts in many scripts, actually four scripts: Greek, Aramaic, and Brahmi. Which is can I write it? Maybe I can write it. No, right. This Brahmi, and this would be this will be Kharoshti, right? So before I proceed, I'm going to start with Kharoshti, because most of you have probably have heard about Brahmi, because it's synonymous with Ashoka, right? So Kharoshti is the only Indian script that's written from left to right. Sorry, right to left. So that's wrong. And from right to left, that's correct. Yeah. So if you have to read Kharoshthi, you have to read basically as if you're reading Arabic. It goes from the rightmost to the leftmost. Right. So it's the only Indian script that's written from right to left. Right. It originated around like round about 300 BCE, just before Ashoka, or around the time of Ashoka. It's at least there is a general consensus that it's earlier than Brahmi, at least give or take a century. So to understand Kharoshthi, we have to understand the political situation of India. Right? You are India proper, that's Indian subcontinent now. But the Northwest India was always special because it had influence of all these other cultures, right? First came the Persians, then came the Greeks, and then came the Arabs, and then came the Mughals, right? So it's basically in the crossroads of all different culture. Anyway, so that part of India, okay, at least what was India was like Persian for like about 300, 400 years, right? So it was Persian. The Persian Empire at that point, the lingua franca, the administrative language of the Persian Empire, was Aramaic, right? Aramaic, as known, Jesus spoke Aramaic. Right? Aramaic was the language that people spoke. That was lingua franca for like across cultures, across empires, the entire Middle East, up to like that tip of India. So Aramaic was the lingua franca, and most likely the administrators that the Persian Empire had probably had local administrators. It had like administrated from from Persia itself. They used Aramaic, right, for the records, and most likely they used Aramaic script. So the population at that point, over the 300 years, they might not have the local population per se might not have not everyone would have known how to read and write Aramaic, but at least the educated would have had some exposure to Aramaic. For instance, this is an Ashokan edict that was actually issued by him in Aramaic, right? Right? He was multilingual, right? Can anyone notice anything different about this inscription? So what catches your eye in the inscription?
Uses English letters, or is that something you created?
No, it's like a transcription of Aramaic.
Oh.
Right. Okay, there you can see the word Priyadarshi here. Right. That's Ashoka. One thing you notice, none of this has vowels. All of this are just consonants, right? Because most of the even now, all the Middle Eastern languages, they don't write vowels, right? If you take Arabic, they don't write vowels. They only write consonants, right? If you want to write like Vinod, I just have write WN and D, wow, noon and dal. Right? They have some shortcuts to do things, but so all these Middle Eastern languages, they don't have tradition of writing vowels. That's something important to just to know at this point, right? So Aramaic, just to introduction, Aramaic had the script, used for Aramaic language. It came from Phoenician. Yeah, everything comes from Phoenician, which again goes back to Egyptian hieroglyphics. It had like 22 consonants, but no vowels, right? No vowels at all. It had one sound, which is when you say the sound. They had a sound for that, which is the closest you could say for a vowel. Apart from that, everything is a consonant, right? If you want to say something in Aramaic, you write like just the basic consonants, and basically you have to guess what it means, right? And that usually works out because writing doesn't always have to be phonetic, right? Writing, in some sense, it just mnemonic, right? It's just symbol to remind you what's written and what it means. It doesn't always have to transcribe the exact phonetics of what's written, right? That's why you have Chinese, right? Chinese is like it can be phonetic, but the base system is not phonetic, right? If you want to write a man, you just write a small man, a skeleton of man. You know that it's a man, and you just say the Chinese word for a man. So this works for Aramaic because the language works like that. Once you write a consonant, because the language is very, very regular, you can guess what are the vowels and you can guess the meaning of it. So the top thing is Aramaic, and the bottom is Kharoshthi, right? What Indians have developed, right? The consensus is that when people developed Kharoshthi, they took Aramaic and basically Indianized it, right? Because the local language of the Northwest was Gandhari Prakrit, and they basically took the Aramaic base system and they modified it so that they could write the Gandhari Prakrit, right? This is again the original Aramaic edict that Ashoka did, and that's basically a made up Kharoshthi equivalent of what it would have looked like if it had been by Kharoshthi. As you can see, lots of letters are basically similar. Right? Right. So yeah, here, and here. Right. Yeah. So what is the general theory how writing developed, at least in Northwest, right? It's quite straightforward, right? Assuming, like, say, you're in Gandhara, right? You are some sort of an administrator. You basically know how to read and write Aramaic, right? Because your overlords are all Persian. They speak Aramaic. You want to make like do administration in the Persian Empire, you have to read and write Aramaic, right? Um, but you're very, very curious, right? You want to curious, you know what? Okay, I've been writing Aramaic, it's the official language, but you know what? What if I want to write my language? That's Gandhari, right? Maybe you want to write a local name, right? Because an Indian, right? If you don't write the vowels, it's very, very ambiguous, right? Not writing the vowels will work for like may have worked for like Aramaic, but it won't work for any Indian bubbles give like if you have the word gata and gati, if I only write ga and ta, it can mean half a dozen words. Well, so you want to your next Aramaic, but you want to somehow write your local language. what do you do, right? Let's take an example, right? Say you have only like 4 letters, right? I think like 4 letters, but they're all consonants, right? Because the base system that you know only has consonants, right? And you want to write the word, say, gati, and you want to write the word ataka, right? Okay, you know Aramaic script. You take the letter for g, letter for like the g sound and the sound, and you write it. It's fine. Now that's not enough, right? There is no way people know what it means if you don't mark the vowels. So what do? You kind of make like small scribbles and on top of the letters, marking what's the vowel that intended. Then say you want to mark it, okay, this G has an A sound and the th must have an E sound, right? Now we have some sort of system, but you can see like the R sound is the most common sound in any Indian language. Maybe I don't have to write it, right? If I write a consonant without any marks at all, I can just assume it's an R, right? It's a very simple convention, but it's very, very efficient convention, right? So I don't mark the R sounds. If I write the consonant, just we assume that it has an R sound. I only have to write the other vowels, R, E, U, and A and O, right? It works, right? I can write the word Rati. I just write the consonants G and T, put like a small mark at the top, bottom, whatever it is. And you know what? That means Gati, right? It works. I just made up my own convention how to write the vowels. Again, I have a problem, right? I also have words like, say, this all made up words. Say I had a word like tapta and pakti, right? I want to write it, right? And okay, I have a made up convention, right? Okay, I write the vowels, I write the consonants, I put some marks to show like whether it's an without if it has no mark, it has an A sound. If it has a mark, it has an E sound. Okay, but it doesn't work because I have this all the, right? But as I know, every consonant sound is one symbol, has its own sign. So being the smart person I am, what I could do is take these 2 letters and put them together, right? And then I have one single sign for one single consonantal sound, right? It works out. So I can write all these words, right? Let's assume I have the another word called patha, right? There are like no equivalent in Aramaic, right? I only have the sound for the and have anything for what could I do? I can write the. I can just basically modify the to write right? And yeah, I made up like I took a base system that doesn't write any vowels at all or doesn't have any sounds for my language as Gandhari. I did some changes here and there. Voila. I have a functional system that can write Gandhari. And that's pretty much what happened. Either one person did it or it happened over like few generations. People, if there's the same sound between Aramaic and Gandhari, which has more or less the same phonetic value, it was outright borrowed, right? And if we needed like extra signs, basically the existing signs were like modified to create new sounds. For instance, here you have a so you have ch here, right? Right. So for a ch, I just have to add another stroke here. Same way, this is g. I want g. I just have to write another stroke. Right. It's very straightforward, right? And all these people who wrote Kharoshthi were scribes. So they were like writing lots and lots of manuscripts, lots of like records. So they knew what they were doing. They want something fast. And it's a very straightforward solution of like to create a script. That's the constant, right? Again, as we said, like Kharoshthi doesn't, the Aramaic doesn't write vowels. So I have K here, right? So I want to write the words ka, ki, ku, and ke. What do I do? Quite simple. I have 4 directions: top, bottom, left, and right. Right. Basically, I can put something here for ki, something here for ku, something at the top for k, something at the right for ku. Again, quite simple. I just have to put like small strokes on 4 sides for the 4 vowels that I have: E, A, U, and O. R, E, A, U, O. R, it's unmarked, so it's fine. I have 4 sounds, 4 vowels, 4 directions. I can just put a small stroke to mark them. As simple as that. Again, that works for consonants, but I need to write like R, E, and U, and O. I've said Aramaic has sound U. I can take that for my R. I can assign it for R. Same thing. I take this base sign. This will be E. This will be U. This will be A. And this will be O, right? I can use the same sign with different strokes, with different marks to write all my 5 vowels, right? It saves time. It's very efficient. I can write it fast. I said again, if you don't write the combined sounds like the, st, I just need to like switch them together, right? Visually, they are one single sign and they behave like one single sign. For example, you have k here, you have k here, it's a k sound, it's a k sound. You switch them together, you get a k. As simple as that. Again, you have k here, right, and this is r. Can do this, right, kra, but since I'm lazy, I just put only one part of it for kra, right? And it works. This is a sample in Kharoshthi, right? It's from the it's in a cast inscription of a Buddhist nature. Again, you have to read from left to right, right? It says, Vishpavarmasa Stratagetasa Putre Indravarma Kumare Sabharyaye Ime Sharira Pratitavati Tunamkami Tubami Vishpavarmo Stratego Shishirena Ya Stratage Bharya Pueta Indravasu Apacharaja Vasumitra Ya Jivaputra Puyeta. Again, it's in Gandhari. One thing you notice, like, it doesn't differentiate between Kumare and Kumare. Again, Sabharyaye, Sharira. So it doesn't differentiate between Dirga and Hraswa vowels. Again, it works for Gandhari. Based on the context, you can differentiate what's long, that's Dirgha, and what's short, Hraswa, right? But at least the vowels, their basic vowels are marked. The lens at this point, it wasn't developed. But later, like 300 later, there was a need to like mark the vowels, and it was marked. So what happened? Basically, Kharoshthi didn't survive for long, right? By the time Kharoshthi became popular in the Northwest, Brahmi became very, very prominent, and Ashoka spread Brahmi far and wide in India, and pretty much every Indian language adopted Brahmi, from the north to the south, even up to like Sri Lanka, right? But Kharoshthi never went beyond what's now Northwest, because all the succeeding kings came after like Ashoka, they mostly preferred like Kushans. Here they did coins both in Brahmi and Kharoshthi, so in Greek. But it never spread. It never, at least in India, it never became popular like outside the Northwest. It sort of like traveled to Central Asia via the Silk Road. It also went to China for a while because it's all Buddhist, and Kharoshthi was so for a long time was like associated with like Gandhar and Buddhism. Then Buddhism spread. It also took Kharoshthi with it. So I think the latest attestation of Kharoshthi we have outside India, I think is in China around 7th century. But even India, it just after like 200, 300 CE, it pretty much became extinct, right? Which is sad because it's a very interesting script. It goes from right to left, right? And it's a clerical script. It was developed most likely by scribes, right? So it's basically it's meant to be written fast with minimal effort. For instance, you can see that where is it? Right. Brahmi looks pretty, right? But it has a lot of straight lines. It has like lots of curves. It's not easy to write it. But you see Kharoshthi, right? It's meant to be written fast. It's meant to be scribbled, right? It's very curvy. It flows well, right? But it's not pretty, right? Brahmi as a script, what's meant to look imperial. It's what's meant to look majestic, right? And Kharoshthi couldn't, in terms of at least aesthetics, it couldn't compete with Brahmi. And one more reason is like by the time Brahmi was developed, Brahmi had like all the signs for all the vowels. Dirgha, at some point, that signs for like Anuswara, Visarga, Chandrabindu, all the R, R, L, and L. It was basically a complete system. By the time Ashoka like did all his stupas, right? All his edicts. So people adopted Brahmi more than Kharoshthi. And it just did not survive. And you could think about an alternate history where Kharoshthi somehow spread all over India. You would all be writing right to left, not left to right. But that did not happen. Brahmi appeared and basically swept through all of Southeast Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, pretty much. It just took over like pretty much every culture it came in contact with. It took over it, which is just quite an amazing fact. Right. So I've been speaking for a long time. I'm going to take a small break, say 5 minutes, and we'll come back. And if you have any questions in those 5 minutes, yeah, feel free to ask, or you can just go for a break and come back.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
I'll stop my sharing now. Gallery.
So I'm just curious, how many of you guys today are kids, like high school or college? We're just curious to see who here
Yeah.
is a student.
I'm a kid. I'm 13 years old. I'm in 7th grade middle school.
Oh, nice. And what is your name?
Trishul.
Trishul. Very nice.
So you're the only kid here.
That's awesome, Trishul.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming. Very nice.
All right, let's get going. Let me share my screen again. Sure. Right. Is my presentation visible?
Yes, yes, yes.
The group, right. That was the thing of Koroshti, right? Then we come to Brahmi proper. And this was the script that was popularized by Ashoka. Or you could say it was at least quasi-invented by Ashoka, right? There's a beautiful story of like why the script is called Brahmi, right? Because the Jains are really good at stories. They have stories for everything. And they also had the story for like why the earliest script is called Brahmi. The story goes like the first Kitankara, Rishabhanatha, he has like when he was a king, before he became monk, he was a king, and he had two daughters, Brahmi and Sundari. And basically, he's supposed to invent like all the arts and science, and everything was invented by him. So basically, he invented writing. And to the first daughter, Brahmi, he basically taught writing scripts and all the Varnamala, right? Because Brahmi is the first one who learned the script, to whom the scripts are taught. The legend goes like, that's why the first script is called Brahmi. It's a beautiful story, but we don't know how true it is. So Brahmi is one of the most important script in the Indian cultural area. Right? It's pretty much that gave writing to whole of South Asia and whole of Southeast Asia. Without that, there wouldn't be any writing. Maybe there would have been some other script, but the whole concept of like writing as aksharas, having the varnamala, right? The whole how the language is written is pretty much derived from Brahmi, right? If you take Indian scripts, you have like dozens and dozens of Indian scripts. They all look different, but the structure is pretty much the same. The underlying is pretty much the same because they all come from Brahmi, even though shapes have changed. The underlying behavior of they're organized have pretty much remained the same, right? Again, this inscription from Ashoka. Again, origins, there are lots and lots of theories how Brahmi originated. I am not going to list them all. The general consensus is like, because by the time Ashoka narrates appear in history, right? We have this all this nice edict, the clean letters. It looks really, really nice, look really, really polished, right? You always had Koroshti. You already had Koroshti. That's been at least a couple of years before Brahmi became popular. So Koroshti already existed. Now this new script appears out of nowhere. At least to me, what probably happened was like Ashoka wanted something, or at least somebody before Ashoka. They wanted something that looks nice, that looks neat, that looks very majestic and imperial. They sort of like was inspired by Aramaic, and they knew like how Koroshti vowel letters are marked, top, bottom, left, and right, and they kind of came up with Brahmi, right? And there are like lots of charts comparing Aramaic, Phoenician, and Koroshti, and see like all the letters have like similar origins. Right? You can look it up. Thing is like it's not directly derived from Aramaic or Phoenician. It's not directly derived from Kharosthi, right? But the basic concepts, the basic ideas, how the script is structured, the shapes, how it behaves, they come from both the scripts, which kind of indicates it's at least quasi-invented, because if you have writing, right, when you write, you don't always write all these very clear shapes, right? It's always curvy, it's always like irregular, which you can see in Kharosthi, right? It's not the most pretty script. It's not the prettiest looking script, but it lends itself to write fluently, right? But Brahmi is not that. Brahmi looks very geometric, lot of straight lines, lot of curves. It's as if it was meant to be carved on stone and not to be meant to be written by hand. Right? And eventually, it was written by hand, and that's why we have like lots of all the daughter script that we have now in India. Brahmi is the one where you have all this, the structure what we have in Indian languages come from. You have vowels, so all your 14 vowels, a, I, u, r, l, a, I, o, and ow. And you have your Vyanjanas, kakakagha, kakagaganga, chachajajanya, tatadadana, tatadadana, papababama, yaralava, shashasaha, right? And you always have the matras, where you take the base consonant k, you put signs above, below, on the side to mark the vowels. You have ka, ki, ku, kru, klu, ke, kai, ko, and ka. Right? You can see like how the signs of marking something above, below, and on the side sort of resembles Kharosthi, right? It possibly is not a coincidence. There's probably some influence, right? And in terms of conjunct consonant in Samyuktaksharas, it pretty much follows the same concept. If you I want to write like a Samyuktakshara, say t, ksha, p, or kla. I take one letter and I take another letter and I squish them together. And that's simple, right? And this underlying structure is what is followed by all the Indian scripts. I said it's one of the most successful script of ancient times. It was instantly adopted from Prakrit in the north to Tamil in the south. Pretty much people used it. The model is of dividing into like separate signs for vowels, separate signs for like consonants, the raspa, dirgha differentiation, right? The writing of the samyuktaksharas and everything. This model was so stable, it hasn't changed in a long time, for 2000 years, across like say two dozen cultures. In a way, Brahmi did not disappear. It just evolved and multiplied into like different scripts, right? Uh, there is a sample of Brahmi. This is basically Prakrit, and this is the Brahmi rendering of it. You can see like it's actually very, 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 very pretty. If one knows, like it looks nice. It's very it's very regular, right? And that's why it made a really, really good imperial script. It could basically capture the phonetics of like all Indian languages like properly. It looked pretty, and there was no reason not to adopt it. And that's why we come to the structure, right?
Vinodji, could I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So you mentioned that Brahmi is the script that was of geometrical shapes in the beginning, right? Because it needed to be carved into rocks.
Yeah.
So that evolved into these curves and all that over time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
We'll come to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So the whole structure of Indian scripts that we know, it actually comes from Brahmi, right? There is the story of this this monk. He's from China actually. Back then, lots of Chinese people came to India because it was center of Buddhism. He had all these universities, Nalanda and Takshashila and everything. They came, they learned Sanskrit, they learned Indian writing, and they went back and they took books so they could translate it. Right. The story goes like this Chinese monk. He came to India. He was talking to another Indian monk, and he says like, "Oh, how I?" He say like, "Oh, I know these two scripts. Uh, Script of Maheshwara. We don't know what it is. And I know Nagari is like they all look different, but pretty much they're identical, right?" And that's very interesting because we'll take two scripts. So we'll take Sharada, which is from Kashmir, and we'll take Grantha, which is from the south. Again, it's again you also used to write Sanskrit. You can say like these two scripts at least look visually similar, right? But structurally, they are pretty much the same. The two scripts are like two corners of India. They may look different, they may appear different, but they pretty much behave the same. Right. You have the same vowels, all the 14 vowels, and you have the same consonants, right? And you have the same concept of matras. You take pa, and you sort of like put signs above, below, side to the side to create your pa, pi, pu, and pe and po or pr. And one thing that's very interesting to say is like these organized matras haven't changed much again for 2000 years. For instance, in Tamil, for ko, right, you write a and write a sign, right? It's pretty much same in Devanagari as well, right? If you want to write ko in Devanagari, again, you have to put the a sign and the a sign, which is same as in any other script, say in Telugu, right? I'll take another one. I'll take Kannada, right? You have the A sign here, the A sign here. So again, right, it may look all the Indian scripts may look different, but they are pretty much the same. Same way in Bengali. If you want to write K, my Bengali is bad. I'll put like you do this, right? It's pretty much the same as Tamil. Right? The A sign goes to the left, same as in Bengali, right? As you work with like more and more Indian scripts, you see all this familiar thing popping up because at the end of the day, they all come from the same script, right? And you might take, okay, this Bengali, this Tamil, they look totally different, but if you actually compare them, you'll see like how similar they are in terms of how they behave, how the signs are written, how they go to the left and to the right, everything. And one thing that's very peculiar to Indian script, to write a consonant and assume that it has an R sound, right? That's something that's very peculiar to Indian scripts. Right? For instance, in case of Latin, you just right, just the K sound. If you want to write a R sound, you have to put and right? Same way Arabic, I'll write another one, say noon. And if you want to put no sound, I have to put something at the top. Right. But it's only in Indian script, if you write like a consonantal sound, you assume it has built in. Right? And if you want to remove that you have to put an halant to basically kill it. And this is common to all languages. You have ka, you put halant, you have uk. You have ka, you put halant, you have ik. You have ka, you put halant, you have ik. Right. The concept like the consonants coming with the built-in sound, again, that's inherited from Brahmi. Again, the concept of like having aksharas, it's very, very peculiar to Indian scripts and in language in general. You say like Lakshmi would in Latin would have like how many letters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? But you ask an Indian how many letters or aksharas Lakshmi has, they'll say it has, right? You have La and you have Shmi, right? And that's true in most Indian scripts, right? How we count aksharas is pretty much common. You can take like even Telugu, La, yeah, right. Again, it's like one akshara and two aksharas. Same way that how you people write like samyukta aksharas, it's again pretty much common to all the Indian scripts. You take two letters and you squish them together. You either squish them horizontally or you squish them vertically. Right? It doesn't matter. But if you want to write like a combined consonantal sound, the basic idea is like I squish them together. And that's common. Right. And that's right. I have a sample where I have a Sanskrit text, both in Grantha and in Sharada. But inherently, they look different, right? But structurally, they are similar, right? If you learn one Indian script, you've pretty much learned every other Indian script because how they behave, how they work is not that different. You may have to learn like different visual symbols, but the writing grammar, how it works, is pretty much the same, right? And that thing pretty much unifies all Indian languages. Okay, Tamil is slightly different, but nevertheless, it's pretty much same. When you say unity in diversity, it works on Indian scripts. They may look very, very diverse. They may look different. They may feel diverse, but at the end of the day, they have the same underlying structure and grammar because they come from the same script. And I'm gonna stop here. I have 10 more slides, but I think we're running out of time. No, just got it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just summarize it. Just to summarize, if you talk about ancient Indian writing, you have Brahmi and Kharoshti, and Kharoshti is slightly older than Brahmi because it comes from Aramaic, and you have Brahmi, and every other Indian script comes from Brahmi, which means like they pretty much share the same structure, whether it's from Kashmir, whether it's from Tamil Nadu, it doesn't matter. They have the same structure, they have the same written grammar, they have the same feel on how they organize things or how they how they write things. That's pretty much it for today. And we have time for questions. So,
anybody have any questions? You can either put it in the chat or ask if you like.
let me stop my screen.
Okay. Trishul, you have any questions?
No, I've understood.
Very good. Thanks.
So are we going to make this recording for future reference for the participants?
Yes, it will be posted to, it is Facebook live streaming now. And then once that's ready, we'll put it on YouTube as well. So make sure you follow our YouTube and Facebook handles, Kalai Nirai Foundation.
Sure.
Yes, and there was a question that popped up. It says, where is Indar script placed in relation with Brahmi?
I don't know. That's nobody knows. You have people who claim it's Tamil, you have people who claim it's Sanskrit. But to be honest, nobody knows. Because to decipher something, you need bilingual inscriptions, right? And that's how Egyptian was deciphered, right? And people found this Rosetta Stone, you had Greek, you had Egyptian, you had this bilingual text. It was beautiful, right? You can get the equivalents of like names, and you can say, okay, this sound is written in Egyptian. You can guess the values, and you can do that. But in the script, nothing has been found. And when people decipher Brahmi, because again, that all Indian scripts pretty much work the same way, and the language is pretty much guessable, you can decipher it because you know that it's an Indian language. You know how Indian scripts work. You know how the structure works. You can pretty much guess and decipher it, even if you don't have like bilingual inscriptions, right?
Yeah.
But for Indian script, you don't have anything. You just have all these signs without any context. You have seals. You have signs that come together. It can just mean like, you know what, 20 kilos of wheat and 30 kilos of rice. We don't know. It might as well be that, right? They were just trading, right? If you see all the seals, right? Imagine there's some guy in the Tianga, you want to like do some trade, okay? He got some package, you know what? It has like 40 kilos of wheat to this country. It might as well be that.
Very fascinating. Looks like Bhaskar ji has a question, and then also followed by Sharavana Kumar.
Mine is probably a longer answer or probably separate discussion. If Saravana Kumar has a short one, let him go, then I'll ask.
Okay. Sharavana Kumar ji, do you want to go? And then we'll wrap up for today and pick it up next week because we are at our 12:30 mark. I mean, the end of the time. Sharavanan ji, you had a question. You raised your hand. No longer? Okay, I guess not. Bhaskar ji, if it's a quick question, maybe we can take it. But if you think it'll take a while, then perhaps you can connect with Vinod ji on the side. Oh, Sharavanan ji says his mic wasn't working. Sure, come back.
Okay. Yeah.
You want to post your question in the chat then?
Okay, Bhaskar, you can ask a question. I will until he types. I have time.
Yeah. Again, what is Vinod's take on Tamil being the oldest language? You can answer it from the language itself or the Lipi standpoint.
Okay, the thing is, okay, it's not very controversial, right? So the earliest grammar of Tamil, right, is Tolkappiyam, right? And clearly, the grammar describes orthography. It says you have to put a dot, you have to remove a dot, you have this, you have that. It pretty much reflects the written orthography of Tamil, right? And the Puli is not dated earlier than 100, the second century. Right? You have all these crazy rates of placing it like before. It's most likely Tolkappiyam was like 100 CE or 150 CE because clearly he writes the grammar of written language, right? He mentions writing. He mentions how to put like put a dot for all the mayaritas. Where you have to remove it. How you have to kilogram, you have to put a dot. For Magar, you have to put in a dot. He actually mentions writing, right? Writing that's properly developed, that's formalized, that's standardized. That takes time.
Yep.
And you don't have Puli before like 100 CE. So most likely it was written like 150 CE.
Mhm.
That's a realistic bound you can put based on like at least Tolkien. That's what Airavata Mahadevan would say.
Yeah.
I agree with him. Because you can't have an orthography, a grammar that defines an orthography,
Mhm.
and date it before the orthography was attested.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That doesn't make sense. But again, there are lots of reasons why people do that. But hard facts are like you can't date it before 150 CE.
Thank you.
Got
Yeah.
it. Looks like Sharavanan-ji is back. Please ask your question. Oh, maybe not. Did raise his hand.
Hello, you can.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
you are.
Okay, I joined from my mobile. Somehow my laptop system. Thank you, Vinod, for this wonderful presentation. I enjoyed it much. I wanted to ask you some doubts about before Ashoka. Doesn't Pipravaha Vase and the Tisamahara Sri Lankan potsherds and have these scripts on them? The same thing.
The thing is, like, all of it becomes accepted, right? I can come with what the scholarly consensus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And anything that predates Mauryan Brahmi,
Mm-hmm.
it's not unanimously accepted, right?
Okay.
Even if you say something predates Mauryan Brahmi, it doesn't mean it was invented there. Writing
Okay.
always travels. Again, you have to take writing as cultural invention, right? Writing doesn't appear in a vacuum, right? If you had Kharosthi in the northwest, when the Mauryans came, and if something that's Brahmi is almost like Kharosthi, right? Then there's no point that placing invention of script somewhere like thousands of miles away from northwest India. There's a lot of things you have to place how the script works. But anyway, the consensus is like it's not unanimously accepted. So
It all starts with Ashoka.
most likely, yes. That's what I would say. Even if you have something pre-Mauryan Brahmi, it probably went from North India to there. That's the most likely reasonable
Yeah.
estimation.
I accept that because for the Ra, they have supplanted with Da from the north. So I accept that.
Even Tamil Brahmi Ra is from Da. Clearly from Da.
Da. It's clearly from Da and
You
Rannagaram.
just have, you put a small circle, and it's basically Ra in Tamil.
Yeah.
And,
so even the Rannagaram is from it and Tha. So I think there was some common origin even before Ashoka. That common origin or common process in which they all to put this together.
Could be.
Could be.
Ashoka might as well put like a huge council, you know what? I'm going to put edicts. Give me a pretty script that I can actually carve. Because Ashoka could very well have used Kharosthi. He didn't choose to use Kharosthi.
He would be writing right.
He wanted something very right? He wanted something majestic, something imperial. And Brahmi does that because all the carvings of Brahmi, right? It was meant to look pretty. For instance, I'll show you just one thing. Like again, look at the proportions here, right? It's properly a square. No, it's not here and here. It's properly a square.
You haven't shared your screen yet, Vinodji.
Oh, right. Sorry. Right. Let me do that. Yeah. Right. See that it's exactly a square. It doesn't go above. It doesn't go below. It's perfect. It's like people knew the proportions of writing and everything, right? And that's again, right? It was all planned. It's extraordinarily planned.
Mm. Yeah.
And if writing is natural, right, you don't get this like proportions. You don't. I get this like, you get scribbles, right? You get scribbles like this. No, you get scribbles like this. Right? It's easy to write. You don't get proportional writing. So most
All right.
likely to fail with that. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. One more doubt: when you show the Brahmi complete script, you showed re and l all joined in the vowels section. When
Yeah.
in inscriptions are we finding this re and
Probably Gupta period, because Shashakan wouldn't have ru and lu and lu.
yeah, during Ashoka we don't find that.
Yeah, Gupta period we have this, all those ru and lus and lus and lus.
Okay, and
Again,
Sharda
yeah,
Sharda script was during that period, same period. It was invented or
the Brahmi just diverged. India's a big country, right? If you write the same letter like 100 times, at the end of the day, it's going to look different. We'll see it next week how that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you
So,
for the answers.
Thank
No
you,
worries.
Dhanyasmi. Then thank you very much, Vinodji. Just want to remind everybody this is part 1 of a 2-part session. So we'll meet again next Saturday at the same time to do part 2 of this class. And then tomorrow morning is going to be a repeat of this class for the Indian audience. I know there was some confusion over whether it's 4 sessions or 2 sessions. So this is session 1 for the US. Session 2 for the US is next Saturday. Tomorrow is a repeat of today. You're welcome to join, but it's a repeat of today. And next week, it's during the second session that we will share with you Vinodji's brilliant project ideas. They're very interesting and fun. Hopefully we can all pick one and work on something with them. Trishul specifically, we're very curious to hear from you. So I'm looking forward to talking to you after next class to see how you felt. Other than that, we'll see you all next Saturday. Namaskaram, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Vinodji.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye.